Hello everyone, my name is Indu Pandey. I am Assistant Professor at IIMT College of Science and Technology. Today we will discuss about OSI Reference Model, which is very important topic of computer networks. So let's start it. The OSI Reference Model means Open System Interconnection. It is a seven-layered architecture and each layer has a specific functionality to perform. All these seven layers work collaboratively to transmit the data from one person to another across the globe. OSI was developed by ISO, that is International Organization for Standardization. Means OSI model is a seven-layer architecture in which there are seven layers and data is transmitted across these seven layers from sender side and received by transmission at the receiver side after the transmission of these seven layers. An international organization for industrialization was the organization that produced the OSI reference model. OSI reference model was created in 1984 by ISO. It is a framework which explains the process of transmitting data between the computers. It is divided into seven layers that work together to carry out specialized network functions, allowing for a more systematic approach of networking. This is the diagrammatic representation of OSI reference model in which we can see that there are seven layers, that is physical layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer and application layer. When there is a transmission between sender and receivers, all these layers plays an important role during the transmission of data. The physical layers, data link layer, network layers have different functionality to perform and each layer performs various functions from sender side and similarly there is a layer at the receiver side in which these functionalities are performed. So we will discuss in detail about the functionalities of various layers. So what are the seven layers of OSI model? The OSI model consists of seven layers. That is, in the top-down order, we can say that physical layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, and application layer. Now we will discuss in detail about these layers and its functionality. Before understanding these functionalities of these layers, I would like to introduce about the role of these layers. That is, the physical layer provides a medium through which data is transmitted. The data, as we know that data consists of various types of bits. The physical layer performs the data by bits, transmission of bits. Data link layer is used for error-free transfer of data frames. A network layer is responsible for moving packets from source to destination. Transport layer also provides the same functionality as network layer. It provides reliable message delivery from process to process. Session layer is established to manage or terminate a session. Presentation layer is responsible for translation, compression, and encryption of data. And last but not the least, the application layer is the user interface through which the user interacts with the website or channel. So the first layer is physical layer. The main functionality of physical layer is to transmit individual bits from one node to another node. As we know that data consists of binary form, that is 0 and 1 form, then this form is called as bits. And the physical layer tries to transmit these bits. It is the lowest layer of OSI model. Okay, it establishes, maintains, and deactivates the physical connection. It specifies mechanical, electrical, and procedural network interface specifications. So these are the functionalities of physical layer. As we go for the functions of physical layer, the main important function of physical layer is line configuration. Line configuration defines the way how two or more devices can be connected physically. As we know that there are various kinds of connections like LAN, WAN, MAN connections, that line configuration defines what kind of connections a network can establish. Second function of physical layer is data transmission. It defines transmission mode, whether it is simplex, half duplex, full duplex mode between two devices on the network. First of all, we need to understand what is the simplex, half duplex, and full duplex. In simplex mode, sender used to send data to the receiver, and receiver responds to the data. In half duplex mode, the sender has capability to send the data, and the receiver can have capability to receive data, but the receiver has also have power to not respond at the time when sender is available for the message transmission. And in the full duplex mode, what happens that sender and receiver at the real time response to the each other's message. Topology. The third important function of physical layer is topology. Topology defines the way how network devices are arranged. Means there are various kinds of arrangement at the network devices. Means there are mesh, star, bus, ring kinds of topologies. As per the requirement of network, the data is transmitted from sender to the receiver and a topology is established between them. Signals. It determines the type of signal used for transmitting information. As physical layer also defines the which kind of signals is required for transmission of information. The second layer is data link layer. This layer is responsible for error-free transfer of data frames. In data link layer, we try to establish error-free transfer of data frames. As we know that the data has a form of bits. Okay, the bits are used to transfer from sender to the receiver. The collection of bits is called frames, and the data is established and the message is established between data frames. It defines the format of the data on the network. Data link layer is reliable and efficient communication between two or more devices. Data link layer tries to establish a reliable and efficient communication between two or more devices. It is mainly responsible for unique identification of each device that resides on local network. Means data link layer used to give an individual identity number to each device through which the device can be recognized by various other devices. Some of the important functions of data link layer are framing. Data link layer transmits the physical raw bit streams into packet known as frames. As we know that data is transferred in the forms of bits, and these collection of bits are called frame. And in the data link layer, these collection of bits, that is frames, are transmitted from sender side to the receiver side. The data link layer adds the header and trailer to the frame. The header, which is added to the frame, contains hardware destination and source address. Means there are certain kinds of headers and footers that need to be added to the data during the transmission of data. The sender side, and from the sender side, the hardware destination address and the source address are added to the frame, so that the when the receiver receives the data to the correct destination. Second important function of data link layer is physical addressing. The data link layer adds a header to the frame that contains a destination address. The frame is transmitted to the destination address mentioned in the header. Means data link layer provides a specific kind of address, that is called physical address, during the transmission of data, through which data is transmitted from sender side to the receiver side. Third important function of data link layer is flow control. The flow control main functionality of data link layer. It is the technique through which the constant data rate is transmitted on both sides so that no data get corrupted. It ensures that transmitting stations such as server with high processing speed does not exceed receiving station with low processing speed. So, what is the meaning of this sentence? Let me explain you. The flow control mechanism works as when sender and receiver are available for during the data transmission. Sender checks whether receiver has capability to receive the data at the same pace the sender is sending, and receiver should be attentive enough to receive that data. So flow control is a mechanism to check whether the flow between sender and receiver is simultaneous and real time. Next important function of data link layer is error control. Error control is achieved by adding calculated value, that is CRC, cyclic redundancy check, that is placed on the data link layer's trailer, which is added to the message frame before it is sent to the physical layer. If any error seems to be occur, then the receiver sends acknowledgement for the retransmission of corrected frames. Error control is a mechanism during which the data link layer ensures that if there should not be any error during data transmission. The cyclic redundancy check is a procedure or mechanism through which we can reduce the occurrence or redundancy of error. Okay, during cyclic redundancy check, the data is sent by the sender is received by the receiver, and if there is any mismatch between the bits transmitted by sender and receiver, the cyclic redundancy check detects it and informs to the sender. Acknowledgement message is sent from receiver to the sender, through which the sender can recognize to resend the lost or damaged bit. Next important function of data link layer is access control. When two or more devices are connected to the same communication channel, then the data link layer protocol are used to determine which device has control over the link at a given time. Which means when two or more devices are connected through a channel, there are certain kinds of protocols that governs how the data is transmitted from sender to the receiver, and there is also a authority established between sender and receiver to how to that the message is accessible to both of them. Third important layer is network layer. It is a layer 3 that manages device addressing, traces the location of devices on the network. It determines the best path to move data from source to the destination based on network conditions, the priority of the service, and other factors. The data link layer is responsible for routing and forwarding of packets. The frames that was we call during the data link layer are now get converted into packets in network layer. Packets are the collections of frames. When data is transmitted from source to the destination, there is a requirement to check network connections and priority of services. These functions are performed by network layer. What are the other different important functions of network layer? Internet working. And internet working is the main responsibility of network layer. It provides logical connection between different devices. Internet working is simply the interconnection between different devices in order to send data. Addressing. A network layer adds the source and destination address to the header of the frame. Addressing is used to identify device on the internet. The network layer adds source and destination address during the frame, and through which the source knows the destination address and it sends the data to the receiver. Routing. Routing is the major component of network layer. It determines the best optimal path out of multiple paths from source to the destination. Routing is a mechanism through which we try to establish the best path from the given sets of path through which the data can be transferred from sender to the receiver at optimum utilization. Packaging. The network layer receives the packets from upper layer and converts them into packets. This process is called packaging. It is achieved by Internet Protocol, that is IP. Packaging is also an important function of network layer. Next important layer is transport layer. The transport layer is the layer 4 that ensures messages are transmitted in order in which they are sent. There is no duplication of data. The main responsibility of transport layer is to transfer the data completely. It receives the data from the upper layer and converts them into smaller units known as segments. This layer can be termed as end-to-end layer as it provides point-to-point connection source or destination to deliver the data reliability. The transport layer has many other functions. These are service point addressing. Computer runs several programs simultaneously. Due to this reason, the transmission of data from source to destination not only from one computer to another computer but also one process to another process. This means there are many other processes running on computer simultaneously. So there is no need to manage these processes so that there is not any kind of deadlock situation between the processes. The transport layer ensures that. Segmentation and reassembly. When transport layer receives message from upper layer, it divides the message into multiple segments and each segment is assigned with a sequence number that uniquely identifies each segment. When data is transmitted from source to destination, there are different kinds of segments that are transferred from source to destination. These segments are numbered uniquely by transport layer, which helps in order to send data from sender to receiver. Next important function of transport layer is connection control. Transport layer provides two services: connection oriented service and connectionless service. A connectionless service treats each segment as individual packet and they all travel different routes to each to reach the destination, which means that there are two kinds of services during the data transmission. One is connection oriented and other is connectionless service. During connectionless service, we treat every packet as individual packet and each packet is sent from sender side to receiver side. Next important function of transport layer is flow control. The transport layer is also responsible for flow control, but it is performed end to end rather than across a single link. Next important function of transport layer is error control. The transport layer is also responsible for error control. Error control is performed end to end rather than across a single link. The sender transport layer ensures that message reaches to the destination without any error. So error control ensures that the sender, when there is communication between sender and receiver, it should be error free and there is less chances of loss of damage of data or loss of bits, which is ensured by transport layer. Fifth layer is session layer. Session layer is used to establish, maintain and synchronize the interaction between communicating devices. I want to give you a real life example. For example, when we log in any banking website, we see that there is certain kind of session or timer is established during the website. When that timer gets expired, the website doesn't work. When we have to reload the website again and or log in the website again. So this function is practically performed by session layer. The timer is established during the website so as to ensure that there is not any corruption during the transaction of any banking details. Functions of session layer. Dialog control. Session layer acts as a dialog controller that creates a dialogue between two processes. We can say that it allows communication between two processes which can either half duplex or full duplex. So as we know that there are three kinds of communication modes: half duplex, full duplex, and simplex. And the dialog control mechanism is controlled by session layer, during which two processes interact with each other. Synchronization. Session layer adds some checkpoints when transmitting the data in a sequence. If some error occurs in the middle of the transmission of data, then the transmission will take place again from checkpoint. This process is known as synchronization and recovery. So during the data transmission, we ensure that the sender and receiver are there available there during the data transmission, and there is not any damage or loss of bits. There are certain kinds of mechanisms that are established during the transmission, that is error control mechanism, which ensures that there is error free and reliable transmission of data. The synchronization of data is maintained during the data transmission so as to ensure that there is timely delivery of messages or services during the data transmission. So all these functions are performed by session layer. Sixth important and last layer is presentation layer. The presentation layer is mainly concerned with syntax and semantics of information exchange between two systems. It acts as the data translator for a network. This layer is a part of operating system that converts the data from one presentation format to another format. The presentation layer is also known as syntax layer. The presentation layer mainly deals with syntax and semantics of the information. As we know that that English is consists of some grammatical rules that governs the how the English is read, write, or pronounced. Similarly, the presentation layer has certain kinds of semantics, syntax, which is required during the transmission of data and that govern how data is transmitted during the presentation layer. There are various functions of presentation layer. First is translation. The process to two system exchange the information to the in the form of characters, strings, numbers, and so on. Different computer use different encoding methods, and presentation layer handles the interoperability between the different encoding methods. It converts the data from sender dependent format into a common format and changes common format into receiver dependent format at the receiving end, which means that presentation layers converts the data which is understandable to the receiver and the data which is understandable to the sender. Means that when the sender sends the data, presentation layer ensures that when receiver receives it, it has capability to ensure that the whatever the sender has sent, the receiver can recognize the data. Encryption. Encryption is needed to maintain privacy. Encryption is the process of converting sender transmitted information into another form and send the resulting message over the network. So encryption is the process to ensure the confidentiality of the message. Encryption is the process where sender encodes the message so that no other third party can access the message or decode it, and the receiver can receive the message successfully in response to the sender. Compression is the process of compressing the data, that is, it reduces the number of bits to be transmitted. Data compression is very important in multimedia, which means that we have to compress the data so as to reduce the number of bits, and it reduces the file size. Next layer is application layer. An application layer serves as a window for user and application process to access network services. It handles issues such as network transparency, resource allocation, etc. An application layer is not an application, but it performs the applications of another functions. Application layer provides network services to the end users. These are some of the important functions of application layer. Some of the other important functions of applications layer are as follows. File transfer, access and management. An application layer allows a user to access the files in a remote computer, to retrieve the files from one computer, and to manage the files in a remote computer. Mail services. An application layer provides the facility for email forwarding and storage. Directory services. An application layer provides the distributed database sources and used to provide global information about various objects. So conclusion of this today's class is an OSI model refers to 7-layer architecture in which each layer performs specific functions. All 7 layers work collectively to transmit data across the world. It is still widely used model due to various reasons. It helps visualize how network operate, troubleshoot networking problems, and much more. Knowledge of OSI model can help understand modern computer network technology and connection oriented way. Thank you for listening the lecture.